Yes, hello and welcome to 100% Footy. Great to have your company. Just a little bit on the menu tonight, but what about the road ahead? Easter long weekend of footy, Anzac Day the following week, and then Magic Round. Something to look forward to and discuss with this slot. Hello, Paul Galvin.
Hey, Brace.
Hello, Cameron Smith.
Hello, Brace.
Nice to see you here.
You too.
Danny Wilder.
Good evening, James.
Busy day for you?
Yes.
What about you, Top Dog?
James Bracey, how you doing?
Top of the ladder, free
Everything
2
all
points.
right? We had a bye. What was going to happen last?
2 points to the kitty.
Well, they had a bye. I was still working. I never stopped. Everyone else had a bye. I didn't get one.
And you don't sleep either, Gus. What you learnt, I know exactly what it's going to be tonight.
Hard time of year, but Rory McIlroy becomes the 6th player in history to win the Grand Slam of golf. That's all 4 majors. And it was probably 3 or 4 hours of the most gripping sports television I've ever witnessed in my life. It was absolute roller coaster ride all the way. And the outpouring of emotion when he finally did it was extraordinary. What a wonderful event. I look forward to this tournament every year. It was absolutely gripping. And the right bloke won. It was good.
Oh, geez, it was good to watch. Great breakfast TV, isn't it, the Masters, particularly on the final day. Well done, Rory. Now, back onto the footy. Gal, for you.
Yeah, last Friday night after the Broncos-Roosters game, I was shocked, almost fell off my chair when Gus Gould turned into a probing journalist. Now, we know how much he loves journalists. Well, listen to this.
Do you have the salary cap space to accommodate Adam Reynolds if he was to go around again?
Well, it depends on what Adam Reynolds wants to play for.
So that's a no. So it's really something you haven't budgeted for, isn't it?
No.
I could watch this all night.
But he's a type of player that you would have to change course, change plans for.
So you'd have to make sacrifices to fit him in.
Correct.
Now, Gus, would you make any sacrifice in your roster for Lachlan Galvin?
Just can you hold fire on that issue, please? So let's stick to
He's
the
hit him
rundown.
straight up.
Stick to the
Mate,
rundown.
I want to be a probing journalist just like Gus. Can't I probe him the way he probes people?
I thought that was a great interview. That was brilliant.
Yeah, he's turned into a probing journalist. I'm a probing journalist.
I make sacrifices every day. Paul?
You did very well too. I like there was like a statement in the question too at the same time, and Lockie gave great answers. Cameron, what did you learn, please?
What did I learn from the weekend? Well, it's finally here, Brace. You wouldn't believe it. Sonny Bill Williams and Big Yowza. The fight's on.
Is it really?
Now, I stirred him up early in the year. What was it, round 2, Gal? We're up at Newcastle, and I just put it to him. Is he going to take him on? And he got fired up, and it's eventually happened.
Oh, no, that was at
so
a family. Yeah, no,
it's on.
I was very fired up that night about the rounds. I've given in. He won't do 3-minute rounds. He's stuck on 2-minute rounds, and we've been arguing for 3 or 4 months, but I've relented, and 3 minutes, 2 minutes, he's going to pay.
When's it happening?
I think it'll be post-Origin, so it hasn't been confirmed yet. I'll sign the contract probably tomorrow or the next day. It's with the lawyers at the moment, but it'll be done this week.
All right, Danny, I know what you learnt, and let's get straight into it right now. The Tigers. Well, haven't they over the years filled plenty of column inches when it comes to this show? So much airtime. Well, tonight we were ready to celebrate. Yesterday, getting back into the top 8, the stirring win in Newcastle, but that ever-present elephant in the room about the future of their teenage superstar in the halves, well, that turned it all on its head today.
It's a full house at McDonald Jones Stadium. It is a glorious day, and this is Sunday footy at its finest. Galvin, Buller, good hands. Taruva down the wing. He's over to score. Stafford Tower punching into the clear. Sublime skill. Buller kicking in behind. How good's that? Jareen Buller. Oh, he's a talent. Oh, good tackle. Brady, there's a good old-fashioned stink about the kick-off.
This is what the Knights might need.
Luai for Dewey. Dear, oh dear. The Knights have simply made it impossible for themselves today. The Tigers resounding winners in Sunday footy. The dark days are in the rearview mirror. They are in 7th spot. The dark days are in the rearview mirror.
One of the NRL's rising superstars will be on the move, with the West Tigers confirming Lachlan Galvin has chosen to leave when his current contract expires at the end of next season. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. The Tigers in the doldrums yet again. Lachie Galvin. We've had so much to talk about this guy. Bright future, and all of a sudden, he's made the commitment that he wants to leave the Tigers. Danny, how did we get to this point?
Well, I don't know if it was all of a sudden, James, because in recent times, over the last couple of years, Lachie Galvin has gone into the Tigers to ask for a release. It's been on at least 3 or 4 occasions where he's wanted to get out. So on Thursday, there was a meeting where the CEO, Shane Richardson, was meeting with Isaac Moses, the manager of Lachlan Galvin. And at that meeting, Richardson was prepared to make an offer of around $5 million over 5 years, plus a bonus for signing on for next year, so an upgrade of his contract. So it's more than $5 million. He went in prepared to make that offer. He was told by Isaac Moses, don't bother making the offer. So there was no offer made because they said there was no point to it because, now this is where it gets really difficult for the Tigers and really quite poisonous because they were told that under Benji Marshall's coaching, Lachlan Galvin could not reach his potential as a player. That's a huge statement to make from the management of Lachlan Galvin, and obviously it's done with the endorsement of Lachlan Galvin. So,
well, there's no way he's going to be there for the next 2 years, though.
It makes it difficult. I mean, I don't know how you do that, but it's obviously something they've felt for a while because there's been requests for release previously. So it's not a sudden thing. It's not a sudden, and you know everyone can blame the manager, but you know what? He's got a client who is acting on his instructions to go there.
This for me is another one of those examples where we need, I don't know about a transfer window, but I think we should go back to the June 30 deadline. He now has to be celebrated, cheered or booed by Tigers fans. It's round 7 this week for all of this year, then all of next year at the Tigers. It's not fair on the Tigers fans to have to put up for a couple of years. I think we have to go back to the June 30 deadline at a minimum, if not find some sort of transfer window. But I just feel sorry for the Tigers fans that have to cheer this bloke on or boo him for the next couple of years. It's so far out from the end of his contract. The Tigers have said they won't release him.
Gal, the more immediate problem is Lachlan Galvin turning up day after day, week after week, being coached by Benji Marshall. Now, Benji, I know he was not happy about this, obviously, but I also know that he wants to win. And so he's going to have to keep picking Lachlan Galvin in his side in order to achieve that. However, to me, I mean, Gus, you know the inner workings of a footy club. I don't know how you can possibly have a player there who clearly has made a statement against the coach.
Yeah, I find it extraordinary. I mean, some of the things that came out today and how much it is actually validated, how much is Lachlan Galvin actually aware of in the discussions that have taken place.
He has to be aware of it.
Between his manager, well, not necessarily, between his manager and management. Management obviously would have been looking for an opportunity to extend him and extend his contract and make him a long-term West Tigers player. And the manager obviously has different plans for Lachlan Galvin. As to discussions around the coaching and the reasons why he wants to leave, I would have thought that would have been, if discussed, a private discussion between the management and the player. But yeah, I find that extraordinary and you know, somewhat untenable, I guess, if in fact Lachlan Galvin comes out and endorses that statement. I doubt that Lachlan Galvin will, to be honest. I doubt that Lachlan Galvin will want to be a party to comments that his current coach can't improve his football for him.
There's some layers to this one, Cam. How would you be managing it?
I don't think Lachlan Galvin's a party to that, to be honest. He doesn't strike me as that sort of kid, nor do I think that he would, at this stage of his career, be in a position where he would even say that or even intimate that. Now, that might be part of the strategy from the manager to, you know, remove him from the club or to indicate the club he's not going to sign an extended deal. The club has reacted by taking that deal off the table and saying, well, we're not letting him go anyway, you're with us for the next 18 months. I think now, even though he's young, probably Lachlan Galvin's going to have to speak and say, listen, that's either true or it's not true, or no, I'm happy to play here for the next 18 months and I'm happy with the support of my teammates and the coaching that I'm getting. It's not good.
No, it's a difficult situation to be in, right? Particularly in that team environment when you've got a young guy playing in a key position that he plays in, comes out and says, look, I don't want to be a part of this club, moving forward. And I think while I was playing, if there was ever a player that come out and spoke about that, I'd be happy for them to move on because I want players involved in my club and in my team that want to be there to make a difference, right?
Move on straight away.
Move on straight away. And I think that's what will happen. If there's an opportunity that arises for the Tigers to find a replacement for Lockie, he won't be there next year. And hopefully that's the case for himself and the West Tigers. I can understand also, as you said, Gal, like the fans, they'd be extremely disappointed because this club has unearthed a rare talent, right? He was exceptional in his rookie year last year. We've heard the comments from Gus, how he spoke about, he was by far the best rookie in our competition last year. He didn't pick up the Rookie of the Year award because of a suspension that he picked up through the season. But given what you said there, Danny, about this isn't the first time that the club have been made aware that he wanted to move on. Clearly, Lockie doesn't see his future at the West Tigers where he can have the most development as a player and as a person and get the most out of his football career there. So looking outside in, maybe he's wanted to speak to the club and inform them that right now, while there's still time, to allow them to prepare over the next 18 months.
We can only speculate, Cameron. We can only speculate.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I mean, and this conversation, if in fact it took place, can only be between the player manager and the management of the club. And it's extraordinary that's been made public. I can't understand why that's been made public or who made it public. And that's not a good feel for the club at the moment, who are actually getting off the bottom of the ladder. They're doing some good things. They've got some bright young talent. I've tipped them to make the 8. I think they're going terrific. They've had a good win on the weekend.
He's part of their spine. That's their strength. They've had one of the best front rows in the competition. Their spine seem to be gelling so well together.
Forget about Lachlan Galvin now and forget about the West Tigers, but this is a product of the system that we've got in the NRL at the moment, where there is unrestricted movement of players between NRL clubs, and managers and players have the power. And now so many contracts are broken or people wanting releases. And that's because the clubs themselves don't acknowledge contracts. When they've got a player they want to move on, they move them on.
That's right.
Right? They pay them out and they move them on.
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways. You can't blame the player and the player manager if they're not happy at the club, wanting to go.
You've also been critical of the money being offered up towards Lachlan Galvin at such a young age too, Gus.
Yeah, well, I've described Lachlan Galvin as the best young teenager I've seen in my time. And I stand by that. He is. He's extraordinary for his age and what he's done, particularly last year. And his amount of experience in the game, just the things that I see him doing on the field or even attempting on the field, suggests me he's an elite talent, an elite teenage talent. But I made the point on my podcast this week, that doesn't mean he's worth $1 million a year now. Yeah. He's got a long, long way to go.
He's got a fair bit to prove, doesn't he?
Of course he does.
He's going to get it. He's going to get it.
He's got a long way to go.
Whether he got it at the Tigers, which was offered to him,
again,
he's going to get it elsewhere.
That's one of the faults in our game. That's one of the faults in our game.
Well, the Tigers would put him at number 3.
It's one of the dangers in our game of paying these kids too much money too early in their career. And I've seen it ruin some players or make it very, very difficult for them. I'm not saying that he won't earn a lot of money. I've also made the statement he'll probably earn more money than any footballer in history over the next 15 years, where his career is going to go. But he shouldn't be on that money now, right? He's a great teenage talent. That doesn't mean anything at the moment.
No.
And he's not worth $1 million a year, and nor should he be paid $1 million a year, nor would I think he should want $1 million a year while he's in this embryo stage of his career. He's in the development phase. That, again, is another problem in our game.
The manager's going to want it, though. There's one of those other layers.
The manager's going to get it.
Yes, absolutely. But
he's going to get it, not want it. He's going to get it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing this.
Am I right in saying, Danny, that Jerome Luai has in his contract, he's also got some clauses in there along the way? And what does this mean for his future? So I'm assuming having Lachie Galvin there was one of the key aspects that lured him to the Tigers.
You know what? I don't think that's that big a factor for Jerome Luai. I think Jerome Luai wants to win. And I think he's happy whether Lachie Galvin is going to be his 5'8" or Latu Finer is going to be his 5'8", because I know he rates him extremely highly. So I don't think that's a major issue for Jerome. But there might be other issues that Jerome has. And James, before we get off the topic too far, there is another layer to this story. We've seen Isaac Moses, the manager, have some history with the West Tigers before. And there is an issue between Isaac Moses and Benji Marshall. There is a strong dislike between the pair. I don't know why. I tried to find out today, but that is a strong issue at the West Tigers, and it's a concern for the club because it's one of their best players is walking out the door, or will walk out the door very soon.
Is that stemming back from when Benji was a player at West Tigers?
I tried to find out today, Cameron. In fact, I asked several people around the club, and none of them could pinpoint exactly why, but it's an issue. And I'm not saying that Isaac would have done this on purpose, because I mean this is Lachie Galvin's decision. Let's not, he's a man, he can make his own decisions, but there's something more as well.
All right, so looks like Jerome's all set to stay, no issues there.
Well, I'm not saying there's no issues.
Well, the big question is, though, with Lachie Galvin, where he goes, if he's going to go sooner, later, whatever. Gal, you're a probing journo these days.
Probing journo.
Look, got any mail for us?
I've got no mail, no. I might ask the top dog down there.
Oh.
Look, obviously there's the Roosters have got money.
Roosters are out. The Roosters won't deal with Isaac Moses.
He won't have any shortage of suitors trying to sign Lachlan Galvin.
As I said, no matter, he gave up $1 million a year at the Tigers, which is his junior club. Yeah. He's going to get that, if not more, at another club. So the money's not going to be an issue for him or his manager.
We see some great young talents coming through the system, and not all of them make it, to be honest. We see superstars at 17, 18, 19 years of age that just don't go on. And kids that can't make rep sides at that age that end up with long-term NRL careers. There's no rule to this whatsoever, but you can only go on what you see. With Lachlan Galvin, for me, at a 19-year-old kid, the one conversation I have with him is your goal is to be the best 22-year-old player you can be. Yep. When you come out of age group football, which is jersey flag at under 21s, when you're 22, you're the best 22-year-old footballer you can be. Therefore, you need to put yourself in an environment for the next 2 or 3 years where you are learning the game, you're learning to be a professional, you're learning to train, you're understanding what it takes to be a professional footballer, to be a part of a team, to understand the importance of being in a team, and going from there. That's the part of his career he's in right now. He's not in the $1 million part of his career, and he's not in the idea of, deciding whether or not a club is right for him or not. This is his club right at the moment.
Gus, do you want him? I mean, I have to ask you. You're the general manager of the Bulldogs. I know I'm taking advantage of you sitting here.
Yeah, but we've got other plans at the Bulldogs, all right? We've got a pathway system. We've got kids coming through, and never in my wildest imagination would I have thought a Lachlan Galvin will ever come on the market, particularly not in this way or in this soon. So we've got other plans. I've got other kids there that are in the embryo stage of their career, and we're developing them as well. So it's not something you can put on me right now. And as it turns out, he's not available for another 18 months anyway, and a lot of water can flow under the bridge between now and then. But my recommendation to him and his management and to his parents would be, you need to be the best 22-year-old footballer, because your career's not really going to start until you're 24, 25. That's when your real career is going to start.
Would the Bulldogs, though, be a great environment for him to develop his...
Well, I'd hope we're a great environment for any young player. That's what we're setting ourselves up to do. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop. We're starting to see some green shoots coming through now with players, Harry Hayes and Bailey Hayward and Jack Todd, and these fellas are sort of emerging into first grade. I hope we've got another 2 or 3 debut players this year and next. That's the system. That's what I put in place, pathway systems. But it's the same conversation, because player managers and parents can get ahead of themselves in what they should be owning or how soon they should be playing NRL. Don't be in a hurry to play with the big boys. There's plenty of time. And don't be in a hurry to get the money. There's plenty of time. If you're good enough, you'll get it. And people get very, very impatient, and it makes it very hard, particularly with the rules they are today, particularly with the aggressive player managers we have today, particularly with the money that gets thrown around today, to have people explain it's best for their career to hasten slowly and look after their own development. Does that sound like a sales pitch?
Sold. Here's my son. I know where I'm sending you. Between DCE and Lachie Galvin, you've got a busy 6 months ahead, Benny. We'll see you a bit later in the show. Stay with us. Coming up here on 100% Footy. Boy, what a tale of 2 different stories for last year's grand finals. The Storm absolutely flying. Just ask the Warriors and the Panthers. It was a hard watch on Thursday for Penrith fans in Newcastle. We're back to dissect both their seasons so far right after the break.
Grand final is underway. Leniu with the bust up to the halfway and over it. Another exploration down the left. Grant scores. Harry Grant gets over. Cleary, Alamotti, Leniu, Taruva. Leniu switches. Floating pass back to his number 7. Liam Martin goes over to score. Munster with a chip up out wide. Look out. Coates.
Ashley Klein, he's got no try.
Cleary finding room. There's a contest at the back. It's come down from Penrith. It goes to Leota. He throws it for Alamotti. He reaches out and puts it down. They're going to drag him. They're going to put him over. That's premiership defence.
Absolutely.
The Penrith Panthers are premiers. It is very hard to comprehend, but the Panthers have done it again. 4 premierships in a row. This is history. A rich piece of rugby league history.
Oh yes, the Panthers winning their 4th straight title. Those two teams now worlds apart. The Melbourne Storm in second, the Penrith Panthers in second last after 6 rounds of the competition. Cam, Thursday night against the Dolphins, their 5th straight loss.
Yep.
Tricky clash now against the Roosters. Then they've got Manly, Brisbane and North Queensland in the weeks following that. All teams that look tough, particularly on paper. Is it over?
Well, yeah, I'm still not prepared to say that their chances of winning this comp are over, but as the weeks go by and the losses pile up, it becomes more difficult, doesn't it? It's a challenge. It's always a challenge, and it just shows what they've done over the last 4 seasons, and you could probably say 5 seasons considering they played in the grand final in 2020, is remarkable to be able to stay up that long with the changes, with injuries, and all these different challenges that you face throughout the year. To be able to do what they've done is just incredible, which makes them one of the great teams of our game. But this year they've battled. I think they've struggled at times with their consistency, which they haven't over the past 4 years. A lot of errors are starting to creep into their game. A big one for me, I really think they underestimated the loss of Jerome Luai. I really do. I think now we're starting to see the value that he gave to that footy side, even when Nathan Cleary was out for a period of time over the last couple of seasons with the different issues and injuries that he had. Jerome Luai sort of took control of that footy side and sort of continued the wins, just kept ticking the wins over. But it's an uphill battle for them now.
I think Fisher Harris as well. Obviously, I'm a forward, so I'm going to back the forward more.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
When you look at some of the players they've lost over the past 3 or 4 years, they've lost some absolute stars.
They have, mate.
I feel they haven't lost any part of their real heart and soul. And I just feel Fisher Harris being their forward leader, even if he wasn't the best player on the field every week, they just felt safe when he was out there. And I agree, Jerome Luai is a huge loss as well. But I feel for Penrith this year, their defence. Their defence is what they've based their game off the last 4 seasons, and they're the second worst defence of the competition at the moment. And the basic fundamental errors that we just have not seen from the Penrith Panthers, play the ball errors, dropping bombs, just halfbacks dropping the ball, that's one part of the game we haven't seen from Penrith for years. And when your confidence is down, they seem to just keep ticking up over and over and over. So I'm not prepared to write them off just yet. They're just so good a team. I'm glad you brought up what they did, Smithy, because what they did should really be celebrated. To win 4 premierships in a row, I don't think we'll ever see that again. No. And it was an amazing effort by the club. At some stage, though, it had to end.
Yeah, well said. Gus, is it? We've harped on about how they've been able to replenish that team year in, year out when the big names move on. Is this the first time that their depth has truly been tested, though?
Yeah, well, it's going to be tested because underneath all this, what you haven't seen is a number of players that probably would have been next in line to come through to the club have gone to other clubs looking for opportunity because their pathway may have seemed to be blocked at that club. So there's got a lot of young talent that's now filtered out to other clubs around the league that is only just emerging with other clubs and would have been emerging through the Panthers. The other part of the Panthers too is when it's been a significant change. Every year there's been incremental change, but there were significant changes this year. And what I've found with them, watching them play, is that they're still trying to play the same style of football that's won 4 premierships that they have been, with different talent and inexperienced talent. And, what I worried about them the other night was the depth of experience and in the outside backs, where the Dolphins were very strong, and that's where they played them. They just kept carving them up out wide. And unfortunately, the attacking game isn't what it is. Now, Brian To'o didn't play the other night. The attacking game, to me, doesn't look like it's developed since last year. Their game is built on high-speed grind and wearing sides down and then taking their opportunities close to the line. And that's a very difficult brand of football to play, and it's moulded over a long period of time, which they became the best in the competition at. But not with this roster of players, not with these young fellas coming in trying to learn their trade. And at the moment, they just can't live up to that expectation, nor the intensity of the opposition who are playing against the defending premiers, but they're playing against people that didn't win that premiership.
That's right.
It's a total different feel about it, So every year you get 1 or 2 changes. You turn around 3 or 4 years later, and suddenly there's a dozen changes to your side. It's a whole different thing. And whether or not you've overlooked the development of these players coming through, and they've had to go out and into the market and buy players, where previously they weren't buying players. They had young fellas coming through as well. Plus, you've also got to allow for the fact that they're really good senior players have been up for a long time. They've played a lot of high-intensity football. They've had very short off-seasons, playing rep football at the end of seasons. And, a couple of those just look a little bit tired at the moment. I don't think there's any reason to panic. I saw some really good effort areas the other night where they still keep trying. They'll win games in this competition. But right at the moment, they're probably not in those teams that you'd be counting on for a premiership run this year.
And then comes Sunday afternoon at Amy Park, Cam. And
Yeah.
it was almost a point a minute in that opening half for the Storm against the Warriors. And with that spine, if those four stay fit at Melbourne, I mean, they look unbeatable.
Well, it's the key, isn't it? And they've got great players, wonderful, foot soldiers around them, and they've sort of just kicked off where they left last year. They took out the minor premiership, played in the grand final, got beaten by a very good side who played a great game of football in that grand final. So if that spine stays together, as you said, Brace, and they stay fit, they're a real chance. I remember as soon as the grand final was finished last year, I spoke to a couple of my family members and close friends and said, if you got a bit of spare cash, put it on the Melbourne Storm. They are primed.
When you look at last year's two grand finalists, the Storm, the Panthers have lost a heap of players. There's been over the years repetitively, over and over and over.
Yep.
The Storm have gained players. They
right.
never had Nelson play in the grand final last year, and they've added Stefano. So I mean, roster-wise, they've got probably the most talent in the competition, along with Brisbane.
Yep.
But they've got probably the most talent in the competition. To be able to add players of that calibre to your roster after being in the grand final, that's a pretty big addition.
I think the key, though, is I think it's shown over the last sort of 3 weeks is Jerome Hughes. Yep. So he goes off in the first half, doesn't return. They got beaten in the second half.
Did.
14-6.
It's the second time this year that's happened to them.
Yeah, that's right.
They led Parramatta 46.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Got losses.
They failed to finish off or go on with the game.
It's hard to be grim when you don't have to be. I mean,
you're up by 50
they've blown
points.
the game away so by such a big score. And the Warriors would have been, looking to come out and improve the second half as well. But right at the moment, when they get it right, it's hard to see anyone else in the competition that can replicate what they do. You'd have to go with them with a fairly concerted game plan to restrict the amount of good ball that they're getting. But the other part of them is they're playing a lot of attacking football from their own end of the field, which can be very hard to contain, and they've got the players to do it.
Denny spoke to the Storm earlier tonight too. MRI clearing Hughes of serious structural damage. So he's still sore, but they think he'll play Friday.
He will play.
Against the Dolphins.
Dolphins.
So what a boost that, what a match that's going to be too.
So what did they actually say? AC joint, was it?
I think that was the assumption that it was, at least. I was sitting next to Billy on set yesterday, and as soon as he saw him hit the deck, and he goes, your mate knows shoulders pretty well, old Bill. He was like, that looks like AC to me, Brace.
Yeah, no, he'll be right.
You're watching 100% Footy. In just a moment, Denny's back on the set, Scuttlebutt Central and all the fallout.
Not again.
Well, there's a bit going on.
You can jump in. You can jump in as well.
And the fallout from JT and Spencer at Suncorp. Stay with us. Back with more right after the break. You guys right? Welcome back to 100% Footy. Great to have your company here tonight. Well, what about Friday night? The Roosters simply brilliant in their match up against the Broncos, as they were against the Panthers earlier this year. But that result completely overshadowed in the end for what happened during the match. Spencer Leniu taking aim at Jonathan Thurston while on duty for the Nine Network. And then the words had between the two later on after the match. Now, Jonathan Thurston over the weekend issued a statement. We'll get on to the reasoning behind everything in just a moment. But within that statement saying, our colleague, as a proud Indigenous man, I clearly do not endorse Spencer's remark in Las Vegas. The comments I made were an opinion on the penalty was given. Overly aggressive is how he described Spencer's approach to him on the sideline on Friday night, calling it unwarranted. And JT saying, I remain available if Spencer or the Roosters would like to discuss this matter privately. Couldn't believe how quickly this one blew up post-match. Out in the pitch when we were there at Suncorp, Denny, just how did it get to this point and where is it at as we speak right now?
Well, first of all, we all, it would be easy to sit here because we all love Jonathan and, he's a colleague, to just bash up on Spencer Leniu. And I don't think we should do that by any stretch. I think we need to understand both sides of this story. The obvious side we saw publicly, where Spencer lost his cool with Jonathan, wrong time and wrong place. I think he would even acknowledge that at some point in his life. What it comes down to is a miscommunication. We all know Jonathan was very strong on the Ezra Mam situation, where he said Spencer should have been suspended for 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. He wasn't alone saying that. There were plenty of people with that same view that Jonathan held. Now, where it, I think, ticked Spencer off was on two fronts. Firstly, there was a podcast that came out just on the eve of the finals when I think the Roosters were playing the Storm. The Roosters and Spencer heard that, where Jonathan's comments were repeated, where he said, it should be a 12-week ban. The NRL got it wrong. What people don't know is that that podcast was recorded a couple of weeks after the actual Las Vegas incident and wasn't released until the finals. Now, that is a big point because Jonathan wasn't doubling down for fun at that point, even though he's very passionate about the whole issue. He wasn't doing that to rub Spencer's nose in the situation, and I think that's a really vital point. I don't know if Spencer knew that because he was bringing up the podcast in the confrontation.
Which confused Jonathan. Because he was like, I have no idea what he's referring to.
I think he'd forgotten.
Because it had been a year since he'd recorded it.
Right, that's exactly right. So that was one thing which I can understand why Spencer would be wondering, why would Jonathan do that again, raise it again, just before a big game? Yep. So that I hope that explains that part of it. The other part that's, and this is probably people like me in the media have to take responsibility for this. We go to Jonathan Thurston for a comment on a big issue like the one that we saw in Las Vegas because he's a proud Indigenous man. Now, when Ezra Mam was suspended when he got 9 weeks for the drink and drug driving offence, which injured a young kid, which was a pretty weak penalty from the NRL, to be honest, nobody went to Jonathan Thurston. I didn't go to him. I don't know if other media did, but I know from conversations in and around Jonathan, he did not get any calls from the media to say, what did you think of the Ezra Mam suspension? Now, that is the fault of someone like me for not going and asking him, but Spencer doesn't know that. Spencer doesn't know that we didn't go to Ezra, to Jonathan rather, to talk about the Ezra ban and get his view. Now, I can tell you, if Jonathan was asked about the Ezra situation and the ban that he caught from the NRL, he would have gone harder on that because he was of the view that this was a week suspension that Ezra got and that Ezra should have been wiped out for longer. That's where the problem came in because there were two things that Spencer obviously was annoyed about and I hope that explains some of it. And I'm not making excuses for either person's behaviour. I'm just trying to give you the facts as I saw it.
Yeah, but you can't be cranky at Jonathan Thurston for never answering a question he wasn't asked.
That's what I'm saying.
And as a father of 4 girls, you know what his answer would have been. There's no doubt about that. So I think if you go back in time, all this could have unfolded a lot different. You know, Kemi's obviously a close mate of yours.
Yep.
You were there on Friday night.
Yeah, I had to go into the Roosters sheds to do the post-match interviews because Jonathan was a little bit shocked and I guess rattled by what had happened. As far as the grievances or difference of opinion between Spencer Leniu and JT, that's not of my concern. That's their business, and that's what they need to sort out. I do have an issue with the way Spencer went about it and where he did it and how he did it. I just don't think it's a place to bring that up or confront someone in the middle of a game or post-game in the middle of a stadium. There's 40,000 people there the other night. Children that look up to these players, watching that unfold. Millions of people on TV, and I think Spencer got it wrong. And I back up what you said, Danny. I think if he had his time again, he would have done it very differently. That should have been a private matter that no one ever knew about, done behind closed doors between JT and Spencer Leniu, and if he wanted some sort of administration from the Roosters to sit there and sort it all out, I'm sure JT would be up for that. And he said as much. He's happy to have the conversation and continue the conversation with Spencer and the Roosters. The issue I also have, Brace, is that as a game, we come out and made a comment that we're not going to do anything about it until someone makes
an official complaint.
Look, where are we as a game moving forward if we allow that to happen? Is it just open slather now? So anyone that has an issue with someone else, can we just go and attack them verbally? Can we use expletives toward, like as a commentator, if I'm working on a game and I'm upset by a current player's actions on the field, can I go up and call them an F-word or anything like that? No, of course I can't. That's ridiculous. And on top of that as well, like I'm involved in grassroots football. I coach a junior rugby league side. For people out there that don't believe that these young boys and girls look up to these NRL players and want to mimic them, they're kidding themselves. So they look at Spencer and his actions on the weekend and think, well, it's okay. The NRL didn't do anything about it. it's okay to abuse people on the sideline. It's okay to abuse a referee or a touch judge or an opposition coach or player. Of course it's not. That's ridiculous. We all know that that's wrong.
Yep.
It should have been done so much differently, and I hope it's resolved quickly for our game.
Absolutely. I'll sit next to JT when it happened. And there's been a lot of talk that it was a conversation. Well, that wasn't a conversation.
No.
What happened, completely unfounded. JT wasn't trying to interview Spencer after the match either. Let's just make that clear too. He was going up to say, hey, where are we? Is everything okay after what you said to me during the game? There was no attempt to interview him. Spencer Leniu was never on our run sheet to be involved on the mic. Gus, you were there on Friday night as well, obviously up in the commentary box, overseeing the football. Your view on this before we close it off?
Yeah, I never knew it had happened. I was working with you on the panel after the game, and only found out after we'd finished up that this had sort of gone down. And had someone come to me prior to full time, and said, this is what's happened, my advice to Jonathan would be just let it lie and let's deal with this at the right time and place at another time, and we'll get you and Spencer together to have a chat. And that's the only place that's going to be resolved. We're not going to resolve this matter talking about it on TV. The media aren't going to resolve this matter, although it might be nice of headlines for a couple of days. At the end of the day, I know Spencer and I know Jonathan Thurston. I don't know that the matter will ever be resolved, to be honest, given I know what I know about both people, because I know where Spencer comes from and I know the code that he lives by and I know what he's loyal to. And, you know, it was wrong time and place, but it was exacerbated by the fact that it went on after the game because Jonathan was honestly looking for an explanation. He didn't know what had happened. I would have advised against that. I would have said leave it for another time. My advice now is for everyone to leave it. Let the two parties sort it out. Someone get them together and have a talk about it. My personal view is that won't resolve it either, because I know Spencer and I know where he comes from. You know, but at least they'll have had the conversation and they'll know where they're going. But to me, I think it's a matter between them two, and the rest of us just ought to leave it alone.
Stoush over, take it behind closed doors.
It's footy, mate.
Yep, that's footy.
We've dealt with a lot worse than this, I can tell you.
We certainly have. We've still got a bit still to deal with here on 100% Footy. Stay with us.
Well, it's just the media, you know, that's what the media
you media, he says. You media. Particularly Gal. He's a journo these days, apparently. Stay with us.
Hard hitting.
Gould, Father and the Goat, right after the break. So morbid.
Depressing music. Show was going good.
I love it.
Father and the Goats. Gal's here too, our probing journo down the end there to lob some
I
grenades.
just weasel my way in and give it a Gus at some stage. See what he's got tonight.
I look forward to it. All right, our hot topics tonight. We've got 3 of them. We've got the timer on because we've had a bit to chat about earlier, so we're going to rip through it. Jamal Fogarty, there is a lot of talk about his future at the moment. Gus, tomorrow, a meeting between the Raiders and their playmaker.
Yep.
They seem to be standing firm on what we're being told is a $450,000 a year deal, 1 year for 2026.
Yep.
Will he end up at Manly?
I don't know. I don't know what Jamal Fogarty's motivation is at this stage of his career. I mean, he's now, you know, in his 30s, and Canberra will have a pathways program that they've sort of embarked upon with young fellas coming through. They don't want to put, you know, too many roadblocks in the way of emerging players, but there would be great benefit of them playing with a Jamal Fogarty at this stage of their career. Jamal Fogarty's getting towards, you know, those senior years in his career. He wants to cash in on the name and the good football that he's been playing. So you can't knock him for wanting to get a good deal and something with a bit more security. It's really awkward. Salary cap management and roster management is so hard. It really is so hard. And, you know, players like Fogarty, who was a late bloomer and, you know, has probably got to cash in now on the good form that he's shown, is going to be torn between his loyalty to the Raiders and the loyalty to his own future and the money that he's earning. So it's a tough decision for both parties.
I think he goes.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think so. What is he, 31 this year? Still playing some very good football. I think he'll go for the security of a 2-year deal. And it's good money. Like it's 600.
I think Canberra would understand that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a massive loss for Canberra.
Yeah.
Huge loss. Like, you got to remember,
right at the moment,
he's a senior player. Look at their back. They've got a great, strong, tough forward pack. A little bit older. They can get the job done week in, week out. They've got these young, exciting, fast outside
Athletic
backs. But they're so inconsistent. He's not. He's consistent. He just seems to tie that back line together. So, look, Ricky Stewart's obviously got a plan down there, and there's probably a young guy coming through. But I just think for that Canberra side, he's such a big loss. I feel he's so important to their back line in particular.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of difference though in the offers that we're hearing that have been reported. So currently it's reported that it's, what, $450, a one-year deal at $450,000 to stay in Canberra.
Yep.
If he moves to Manly, we're hearing, what, 600 over...
Yeah, that's...
For 2 years, so 1.2 million.
It's a big difference in money. I think Canberra would appreciate that. I'm just trying to work out, what is it about Canberra's roster and salary cap that suggests they can't keep him for 2 years, or whether or not, they think the other younger fellas are going to take over in that time. If they think they're going to take over in that time, well, they're just going to have to do it a year earlier and get a bit of experience that way. But you might be right. There's too big a difference in the money there for Fogarty to knock it back.
No clock watching from our panellists here tonight. We've got 18 seconds to do 2 key issues, but whatever. We're going to blow out. Adam Reynolds.
Where's your buzzer?
Well, it's coming. We saw Gus's hard-hitting interview earlier, Cam, with Darren Lockyer in Brisbane the other night. It's clear that the indication was from Renault that he was going to leave after this season, so the Broncos haven't budgeted for that.
No.
But now all of a sudden he's thinking he wants 2026.
Yep.
What happens?
Well, again, a difficult situation. Adam Reynolds, he's a little bit older than Jamal Fogarty, but playing some great football. Like playing some of the best football I've seen him play in his career. And he's a huge part of, the chances of the Broncos winning a premiership, in the last... Well, in the time that he's been a part of this footy club. I know he battled, some injuries over the last 12 months, but I think if as a club, as an organisation, and particularly, Michael Maguire now as head coach sees that there is a great window of opportunity for them to pick up a premiership over, whether it's this season or next season, I think they've got to try and stick by him.
Do you think the fact they got Ben Hunt almost counts against him a little bit? Because Ezra Mann's obviously got to come back into the side.
Yeah,
he's an out-and-out 5'8".
Yep.
They've got Hunt who can play hooker, as we know, but they're both
Well, he's a security
age.
blanket, isn't he,
Yeah.
Ben Hunt? Is Ben Hunt 1 year older than Adam Reynolds?
No, they're both,
Is that right?
Both 35?
They're
Because
both
I've been
pretty
saying
similar.
the combined age of 70.
Yeah,
They're really old.
They're pretty similar. They're both around 35.
Right. I've just realised the stop clock it's for 3 minutes.
3 minutes
topic.
per topic.
Per
mate.
topic.
You think?
Come
Yeah,
on.
sorry, I totally missed the.
You're
note
in
on
charge
that
here,
one.
mate. What sort of unit
Yeah,
you're
well, I'm
running?
not in charge. The bloke of me is in charge, but that's all right.
It was interesting that they signed Ben Hunt for 2 years. They must have been anticipating that Reynolds was going to retire.
Right.
And then Ezra Mam and Ben Hunt would be the halves combination the following year. But Adam Reynolds says he wants to go around again, so they're between a rock and a hard place.
If he plays on, he plays. It's in Brisbane, though, isn't he? He's not.
I think so. And I've spoken to
I don't
Adam
think he's got
Reynolds.
any ambitions of moving away from Brisbane.
No,
he quite
no,
likes
and-
Brisbane.
Yeah, I've spoken to Adam Reynolds away from footy at a couple of different functions that I've been at, and he loves everything about Brisbane. Loves everything. The family are settled. The kids love it. The kids love the lifestyle up there. So if he's not playing, he'll be at the Broncos organisation in some form.
All right, we've got some time up our sleeves, so let's get on to the next one. Good Friday footy. So live on 9 from 3 this Friday. We get the double header, which goes into Dolphin. Who did we say the Dolphins are playing? Melbourne Storm on Friday night. Going beautifully in this segment. Used up all my chips earlier in the show. But Bunny v Dog. And Gus, this match could be pushing 70,000 fans. You got two teams. Well, look at the South Sydney Rabbitohs, despite what happened to them pre-season going okay. Your Dogs, 2 points from the bye, puts them alone at the top with 5 wins from 5 matches so far. An old grudge match. And you're opening up level 6, the Doggies, to get as many fans in there as possible. $10 a ticket.
Yeah, they're pretty good at predicting what the crowd might be. Every week they sort of let you know what the home crowd or the home gate might be. It's a very popular game, the Good Friday game, and they're looking towards 60, but now they're going to offer up a discounted price of $10 and open up the very top level, which has never sort of been open between these two teams. So $10 a ticket up into that top level.
Ticketek scratching the...
Ticketek have brushed their commission on it to make it cheaper for the public to get in and do it. So, you could set a record, be a part of a record-breaking crowd there on the weekend to support the Bunnies up against the Bulldogs. And they've got great rivalry, great history between the two clubs, always a great game. Bunnies are going well, so too are the Bulldogs, so it should be great afternoon's entertainment.
No-brainer if you're going to the Easter show.
Oh, yeah. Bring your fairy floss and your toffee apple and your show bags across. We can
How many toffee apples you had in your time?
Hey, they're a thing of the past,
have
aren't
one
they?
a year every year.
I haven't seen a toffee apple for 30 years. When have you had one
If we
last?
cut to a shot of you in the stands on Friday afternoon, will you be there chewing away? Oh, there's James Graham going
look
it.
at that.
Geez, there's been some good clashes between these two.
A crooked finger.
The crooked. Best. I want a shot of you with a toffee apple in the stands on Friday, please, Gus.
Yeah, all right.
What's your read on the Rabbits,
Is Latrell a 6?
Gus?
They've been good. They've had plenty of injury problems, but they've been able to accommodate their way around it. I'm not sure what team they'll announce for this weekend's game. They've just been across to Perth, where they were, they were quite good. They were beaten, but they were quite good. They've been terrific. The old coach, be wary of the old coach.
You know what they do? They don't beat themselves.
No.
That's one thing they do.
Well,
They
Bennett teams don't get. Bennett teams don't beat
themselves. They have a really high
themselves.
completion rate. They kick long. They're happy to play the long game, and they just wait for you to make errors. And that's one thing the Dogs are very good at. That they're happy to play the long game. Also, they don't make a lot of errors. So it's going to be a good game.
Wayne Bennett teams, they play with plenty of spirit. They're fit. They're strong. They play for the 80 minutes. They never give up. They don't beat themselves. You've got to beat them, and they'll be hard to beat. And they've got the X-factor players with Mitchell and those sort of players, and little fullbacks going great guns. Joy Gray. It's going to be a great game.
I reckon there'll be plenty of points scored, Brace.
Good.
Yeah,
You reckon?
plenty of points.
The weather's good too.
And
Dogs defence. Dogs have got a really good defensive structure. They'll limit South Sydney's points.
yeah, but I mean by the Doggies.
Oh, you're saying they're going to smash it?
I reckon it's going to be a big win.
You declare and they're going to hammer them.
They're coming off a bye.
Yep.
Yeah, true.
They're well rested.
Any
The other
drama
mob's
on the
coming
bye?
from Perth.
Gus hates
They're
his
travelling
chat.
from Perth.
Everyone
They're
behaved on
gone.
the bye was good. Quiet bye. Holiday. 3
You're all
days.
trying to get us beat, aren't you?
Hey, Matt, can I ask you a
What are you
question?
worried about?
Why do you look at me when you say that? He has declared you out winners this
Because
week,
you
and
put
you
your
give it
heads
to me.
together. You look at you sitting up there like Mick Mox.
We put our heads together, there'd be 3 heads here.
Bring
Come
back
on,
Weiler.
mate.
You're always blaming me, mate. I didn't do
There's
anything.
no respect on this show, I'm telling you.
You're watching 100% Footy.
No respect.
Stay with us.
No
Our
respect.
top 3. Who knows what it is? We'll find out right after the break. It's Cam Top 3 time this week. Best individual efforts. Cam, David Feet, always great to see him in some form.
Well, he's a wrecking ball, isn't he? When he gets on the loose and really taking on pretty much half of that Dragons footy side. He ran across field. He come from the left out to the right. Little one-handed flick pass.
He looks like a 14-year-old playing in the under-9 sometimes.
Yeah.
He just does it so easily, doesn't he?
They're a good side, Titan, but geez, they're frustrating.
This bloke Kennedy, they tell me at training he does some extraordinary things that they all just sit back and marvel at what he does. And for years we were waiting to see it in the top grade, but this is just an example of what he can do. He's got brilliant instincts. He can take intercepts. He can swim. Look, this was just tremendous, and it was one of those moments that really took your breath away watching it. For all money, he was going to pass that ball. Everyone thought he was going to pass it.
He had one before that where he ran about 80 metres, but had it disallowed.
Yeah.
This one, have a go at the hammer. The hammer takes him on fullback. Look at this.
Speed,
Around him,
baby.
look at speed.
Speed.
Wheels sometimes, don't they?
Just look how smooth he runs. He doesn't even look like he's actually trying that much, but he's just lightning. Look at him. He's
frustrating.
a smooth mover, isn't it? Imagine being able to move like that.
Oh, it's
Just
incredible.
Like he floats.
He smiles when he's at top speed. I was in pain.
And your top speed was a lot lower.
I was top speed after about 3 metres, Brace.
Very good. Our top 3 best individual moments from the weekend that was. We're going to look ahead to round 7, the Easter long weekend of footy, right on the other side of this break. Welcome back. What about this for your Easter long weekend of footy, live and free on 9. Gal, who you tipping?
I'm going to go the Dragons, the Dodgers special, as Smithy says, the Storm, and up Cronulla, baby.
What about you, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I'm going to go Manly at home. I'm going to go the Doggies, as we spoke about. Storm up in Brisbane, and the Sharkies
In Newcastle.
I can't say anything more intelligent than that. We've covered it.
Just give him a rap.
I'll go
Hey,
with
dude,
them.
I'll take
Just
that.
go Gal a rap.
I was giving Cameron a rap.
I'll still take it.
Is Dog ready?
Hey?
Dog's ready?
I hope so. I'll watch him train tomorrow, let you know.
No drama out of the bye. I was
A
trying to
few
get some
injuries.
out of
A
it.
few injuries.
Few when he's out of the bye.
Still got a few missing.
Still hasn't answered my question. No drama out of the bye. Everyone behave.
Everyone good?
The bye? Yeah. You love buys, don't you?
do,
You
I
get
love it.
enamoured by buys.
You get 2 points.
Everyone gets the 2.
You got yours in
Why are you
round
worried
6.
about this? Everyone
Stop
gets the
it
2
at the moment.
points.
Thank you,
Every
Gal.
team gets the 2
Thanks,
points.
Cameron. Thank you, Gus.
Shut up about the
See you
buy.
next week. Bye-bye.
This has been another presentation from Nine's Wide World of Sports.